consequence is the outcome, and the mediation implies that there is a variable that sits between them and is causally linked between the antecedent and the consequence. It is between, and that's why we call it mediation, as in median. And that type of causal pathway is not ideally tested in regression, but can be tested, and I'm going to demonstrate that in a little bit. And moderation is a slightly different causal mechanism that what it does is it suggests or implies that there is a variable that affects or influences, now that's a mamby-pamby way of saying causes, it causes the relationship between the antecedent and the consequence to change. And that too I will demonstrate. So how do you test for each one of these? Well, the first one, mediation, is tested by running multiple regression models. Now, fortunately, they turn out to be pretty simple. 2 bivariate regression models and one regression model with 2 predictors. And the way we test for mediation is we can use the Baron-Kenny method, which is a test of significance method. We look to see whether there is a significant pathway between each one of these variables. And if there are, then what we can do is we can say we failed to rule out mediation. Okay. So mediation is tested by a series of models. Moderation, on the other hand, fortunately, is tested by one single model. And that is that we test for the one single model by including 2 primary predictors and then the interaction between those 2 predictors. So moderation is nothing more than interaction. And that's an easy process to test, but more difficult to explain. And that, again, I will explain later after I test this. So let me move on and test this. So I have 4 variables here, x20, m20, y20, and mod20. Mod20 I just created. So I'm going to, this is truly a first go at this. So I'm just going to run a regression model, and this is going to be my first one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the relationship between my antecedent and my consequence. And the reason why I'm going to do that is not because I feel compelled to do it, but at least it gives me some basis for moving on and having an appreciation for whether there's a relationship between these 2 variables. If I fail to find a relationship between these 2 variables, I will not stop. Okay, so now what I do is I run this model. I guess I should make this a little bit larger. And sure enough, we do have a relationship. It is significant. And so that is my path that I will call
C.
huh?
That's supposed to help you on a module.
It's my module. I know. Just trying to keep you guys involved here. All this typing. I'm running your module, I'm going to type. And I got loads of time. I got 10 more minutes. Okay, next. So this is my relationship between my antecedent and my consequence, but I want more than that. So I'm going to run a regression. I'm going to get rid of this guy because that one I don't really care about, nor do I care about that one to begin with. This is really what I care about, and if I fail this one, all bets are off. Oops. Yeah, that's mine. Okay, well, I got a significant effect, so that means I got to move on. Now, if this weren't significant, I could abandon this whole test. You couldn't, but I could. Okay, so this is my A parameter. This is my relationship between my antecedent and my mediator. Next, I want to be able to see whether there's a relationship between my antecedent and my outcome as well as my mediator. This is my module, you're not allowed to ask, but I can ask questions.
You choose Y19 and next train.
Rats, I did, thank you,
Why?
because I made a mistake.
Gotcha.
Won't be the first time, it was the last. Okay, there we are. Hey, there was a relationship with Y19 too, so I could have moved on to that. So here I've got a situation in which both X and M are good predictors of Y. So therefore, my B is significant, check. My A was significant, check. And now my C prime is significant. So what I've done is I've now have evidence that says I've failed to rule out mediation. And what I failed to rule out was mediation, but it's definitely not full mediation, without question, because by including my mediator, I still have a significant direct effect, C prime. And that means that I have to take into consideration that this is not an ideal mediator, it's a partial mediator. Ideal meaning that it's a simplex model. Okay, now I'm done with all that stuff. Now what I need to do is, I can do this. Whoa, hold on a second. I gotta do something else. Okay. X 20, mod 20. Right. Rock and roll, here we go. Okay, and then include my interaction. Looking good. Okay, so what do I have here? Whew. Dodge a bullet, because I'm running short on time. I got 7 minutes, are you kidding me? So I failed to rule out mediation, and it seems as if it's not going to be a simplex model, it's going to be a partial mediation, but thankfully, I don't have any moderation, because that would be a nightmare. Because what I would have to have done is I would have had to decompose my moderated effect by doing this, which you will all do for me. And this is going to be my simple slope and my simple intercept. Okay, and the way I would do this, if I really cared about it, is, so I've got multiple effects here. I've got 2 of them that are relevant. So I've got a 0.95 plus 0.96 m. And then over here, because my interaction is 0, I just have my slope. So this is 0.8, thankfully. Okay, and plus 0 for my interaction, so it doesn't matter what the moderator is. And so this, I can tell you, the only thing that this moderator does is it changes the intercept. And what it does is it adds 0.96. So if I looked at a graph, if I were going to do a quick graph of this, I would say, okay, the slope is going to be 0.8 regardless. But if the moderator is 0 and 1, if it's 0, then it means that the intercept is 0.95, and it's 0.8 over 1, right? Okay, now, if the moderator is 1, then it's 0.95, we'll give it close to 2. And that's my effect. So it's not terribly interesting because I don't have a moderated effect. And what it's showing me is that the slope's right now. Okay, so what are the implications of this? Well, these two models are competing hypotheses. Competing hypotheses in terms of the causal relationship between my three variables. Three cherished variables, x, y, and m. And it appears that I tested this, and that seems to be good. But when I took this away and I tested the moderation, I only get a main effect. So this stands and this goes away, and that's what it appears to be. I've got A and B and C prime. The reason why we call it C prime is we're also testing B along with C prime. So if there's collinearity between X and M, we have problems. You know that. And so the implications are that we fail to rule out mediation. Doesn't mean that mediation exists. And by doing this, we have an idea that the mediation model is more likely than the moderation model, right? So we don't have some heinous model where it's mediating moderators or moderating mediators, whatever the hell that is. That it seems that there's an indirect pathway, and this indirect pathway could be computed by, I can take my A and B and C prime, actually my A, B, and C prime with the standard errors right here, right over here. And if I took those, I can put them in this handy dandy spreadsheet or this, I could go right over here. And here's an online Sobel test calculator, and I can put everything in here. And if I did that, I'd run it, and it would tell me whether there was a significant effect. And because I got 2 minutes, I'm going to do just that. Be nice if I knew where the output was. Okay. So I got my A, and my A is right here. 0.34, 0.066. So what's this on? And my B and what does that say? That says that this indirect effect, AB, is significantly different from zero. Originally, I just used the Baron-Kenny method, rule checklist, yeah, all these things are significant, but because I had enough time on my hands, I put A and B in the standard error of A and the standard error of B in, and I calculated this using this really nice calculation thing, and sure enough, this effect here is significantly different from zero. So that tells me now it passes both the Sobel test as well as Baron-Kenny. Pretty cool. So I'm happy about that. Let me see if I can go back to and so the implications are that I would look more at, if I were doing a treatment study, I'd want to know about manipulating this guy rather than this guy. Because even though it has a direct effect, this one may be more direct to the outcome. That might be the implication.